2. Documentation with RMarkdown, week of February 3rd, 2020. For this week, let's look at the overview and to-do list 2. Now, what is RMarkdown? Well, RMarkdown is a very powerful tool that's used to generate documents from R code. These documents can be PDFs, HTML files, or even PowerPoint slides. Now, what makes RMarkdown so powerful is that it's actually able to take the code that's used during your analysis, display the output, format the output so that it fits within the confines of that PDF or that document that you want, and it does it seamlessly. It does it all in one step, no copy and pasting, nothing like that. What's even better about it is that if you ever change your data and you need to show a new graph or a new visualization, you simply re-render that document with the new data. There's no need to run code, take that picture of that visualization, copy it, and then replace it in the document that you had, and then reformat it so that it looks appropriate. You don't have to do any of that. You simply reknit it or re-render it. So in order to learn how to do this, we have a few tasks. The first task is to read Programming Skills for Data Science Chapter 4, 18.1 through 18.2, as well as read R for Everyone 27.1 and 28.1 to 28.4. The second task that we have is to install LaTeX. LaTeX is a program that's necessary to turn an RMarkdown document into a PDF document. It's not necessary to make HTML files, but we will primarily be turning in labs and project assignments as PDF files, so we'll need LaTeX. The version of LaTeX that you need, or the distribution of LaTeX that you need, will change depending on your machine. If you have a Mac, if you have a Windows, or if you have Linux, you'll need a different version of LaTeX. To have an appropriate recommendation for what version of LaTeX to use, please visit R for Everyone Chapter 27.1. This week, as well as most other weeks, we're going to also have Module 2, we're going to have exercises. Clicking on the Module 2 exercises, we can see that we're primarily going to be concerned with making RMarkdown documents. With these instructions, we'll be going through formatting that's required for the lab. We'll also have a graded 2 discussion. The graded discussion will be similar to the graded discussion from last week. It'll have a similar grading scheme, a similar criterion, and a similar instructions. These instructions and grading criterion will be the same every single week. The thing that will change, however, is the prompt. So this week's prompt will be concerned with using RMarkdown. What makes this week different than last week, however, is that we'll have our first lab. This lab will be due February 8th at 10:59 p.m. That's on a Saturday night. So the instructions, the way that this lab will be formatted is that we have instructions and we have two parts, part 1 and part 2. For the lab, I would like for you all to use RMarkdown to render a PDF document in RStudio. Part 1 will be concerned with formatting. As an example of formatting, we'll be picking your favorite show or favorite movie, and we'll be using the instructions listed below. We'll need to have a subheader stating the title of the movie, a 4-column table with the title of the movie, who was written by, who produced it, and who starred in the movie, a short synopsis of the movie that should be at least 3 sentences, but no more than 3 sentences if not needed. This is not an English class. If your grammar is below par, it doesn't matter. You will not be graded on that. You will not be graded on the accuracy of the synopsis. The point of the synopsis is to get you to practice these 3 things. Have 1 bold word, 1 italicized word, and 1 bold and italicized word. As well, for part 1, we want to have an embedded picture from the movie using a Google image derived file. It can be any file, but Google image derived files are very easily accessible and shouldn't take you long to acquire. As well, we want to provide a hyperlink that will take the reader to the website that the image was derived from. The purpose of part 1 isn't to discuss your favorite movie. It's not to discuss or to showcase your knowledge of cinema or anything like that, but it's more so just to practice using RMarkdown for basic formatting. For part 2, we want to use RMarkdown to actually display our code. which is some of the bread and butter and the beauty of using RMarkdown. I understand that we haven't gone through R or R code, and so this R code may seem very foreign to you. That's okay. We don't need to understand that. You will understand this in future modules to come. In fact, this code will seem very easy to you. So in order to do this, we want to copy this code. Simply highlight it and use Control-C. Once we have this code, we want to form two chunks. We want to form one chunk where we display the code but not display the output, similar to how it's shown above, as well as we want to display the output but not actually print the code that was used to create it. Now in this lab, but not in every lab, I do show an example of what this should look like. In example 1, we have Johnny Tsunami as a subheader. That's the example movie that I chose. We have the columns, or the table, with a 4-column table with the title, the writer, the producer, and who it's starring. All of this information was gathered from Wikipedia page. I wrote a short 3-sentence synopsis of the movie with 1 bold word, 1 italicized word, and 1 bold and italicized word. I have a picture of the movie that I embedded in the PDF document, as well as a clickable hyperlink to that website that was used to make it. When I click on that, it takes me to that photo. For part 2, we showed the code with and without the output, with the code and without the output, rather, similar instructions, as well as with the output and without the code. This is what this code actually goes to produce. It produces this plot. Now going to RMarkdown a little more detailed, we can see here that we have a header which will show a title, a date, and an output. You can also customize this to have an author, to have different types of outputs, different documents. You can make this as a PDF book, which is what your books were actually written in. You can write this in the form of a scientific journal, which is what I use for my research as a bioengineer. And the capabilities are endless as far as this is concerned. You have a lot of different ways that you can format your documents. Now using this, we have instruction, or we have subheaders. And to actually create in our Markdown document, you simply go New File, RMarkdown. We'll say this is example. We'll make it a PDF default output, and we'll hit OK. Now once we do this, we can see that we have a default header that's listed above. It shows a title, my author, the author name, the date, and the output. To make this from a PDF document to an HTML document, you simply replace PDF with HTML. It'll know what to do. For our lab assignment, we want it to be a PDF though. A PDF document requires that we install LaTeX. To run this document, we need to save it. So we'll save this as example RMD, short for RMarkdown, and we'll put this into CSIT 165. So now that I've created that, you can see here in this bottom pane that we have an example.rmarkdown. This example RMarkdown, which is shown and which should be available to you when you make a new Markdown document, will have a few options here. It'll show this. It'll show you how to make bold or italicized words using different asterisks, and the book will also tell you how to format this, but it'll also give you an example of using R chunks. So for this example, we use a summary of something called cars, which is a data set provided by R, as well as it also shows you how to actually show the output without showing the code that was used to produce it. And so to knit this document, we simply hit knit. We can see here that RMarkdown is working. It's making an output file, and it's running. It's doing its thing. Now we can also see that depending on wherever that RMarkdown file was stored or saved, or whatever directory it was saved in, that's also where the PDF will be stored in. As an example to show how you can make this in HTML and how it'll change, we simply hit HTML, knit, and now we have an example.html as well. When we click on this PDF, it should take us to this. It'll have the title, the author name, the date, the header, and then you can also see that we have this summary in cars. Because we don't specify whether or not we want the output or the code to be shown, it's going to show them both. And so you can see here that this is the input that we use, and then this is the output that comes about from that. You can also see that we have another header, including plots, that's shown here. And as we go through it, you can see that because we use this code chunk tag echo equals false, which tells us not to display the code that produces the output, we don't see that code that says plot pressure. Instead, we only see the plot that actually makes. And you can also see from here how to make a hyperlink. There's different ways to make hyperlinks. This is the way that RMarkdown shows it, but you can also use the Markdown documentation that was shown inside of the books. But this is clickable, and when you click on it, it will take you to RMarkdown. That's great. This also shows you how to make different inline code to make it appear as if it is the code that you used to make it, and that's why the font changes from echo equals false here, because we're telling this to print and display this as code document that we would be using. That wraps up the synopsis of RMarkdown. I hope that you enjoy its use. Even though there will be a learning curve associated with it, I promise you that this will become very easy, and that in the future it will be second nature to you, and that you might even use this to make all your documents for your other classes as well. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me or ask. As always, please feel free to also post your questions to the discussion board so that other students or myself can view it and help you out with that. Thank you. I'll see you next week.